everybody has a fear of public speaking, right? That's kind of a pretty normal thing. It's been documented. Some people would rather die than speak in public, right? And in professional life, you kind of have to. You have to learn to do that. And, so when we were talking to groups or with clients, I'll always hear, you'll hear the same thing. Well, listen, I'm an introvert and I don't like doing it. It's just not me. And that is such a myth, right? Just because someone's an introvert doesn't mean that they can't articulate their ideas. Now, they might feel like they can't articulate the ideas because the rest of the world rewards extroversion, right? The dynamic speaker, the person that gets up there and makes everybody laugh, and you've seen these public speakers with a thing on their ear and they're walking around the room, doing the TED talk, right? And that's horrifying to an extrovert. I mean, to an introvert, that's hard. Like I could never do that, right? But it's not true. You have to work through that, right? Just like the extrovert has to learn to build on-ramps for people to interrupt them. And they have to learn how to listen better. And they just have to activate those muscles. So I don't mind talking. I mean, I can just tell you, I remember being in marketing class in undergraduate school, and Professor Burt, who I had totally admired, he's still I still think of him as a mentor of mine. He's still around. He went and got his doctorate after I got mine, which is kind of cool. Great guy. He called me in class. I was a freshman. Freshman marketing. Yes, Russell, what's your opinion? And I remember literally going, like I couldn't talk. I remember I had anxiety. I couldn't talk. I was like, and he looked at me for a little while and he was so kind. He said, "What about you, Bill?" Like he just moved on from me, right? And I remember something similar happened to me in grammar school. Like I was like, I'm petrified to speak in front of people, right? Believe it or not, this is how bad it was for me. And then, I got into this field and I had to learn how to facilitate meetings and I had to learn how to do certain things. And it was hard for me. And I remember going to a facilitation course in New York a long time ago when I started transitioning into this work. And I said to the professor afterwards, I can't write on the board and I really have a hard time speaking. And she just said, forget it. Like, just be yourself. Like, don't try, you're trying to be somebody else. And so I took her advice and I tried to be more of myself, and the reaction was good, right? And then I got a chance to teach a course at a technical college, and they asked me to teach marketing at a technical college. And I remember being so paralyzed and petrified, right? These are incoming freshmen, not tech school, but like a community college, right? Incoming freshmen, they don't know college, they don't know me, right? I certainly know more than they do about the subject, but to me it was horrifying and petrifying. And I remember calling friends that were teachers, and I tried to get all this, and I just had to push through it. And after the first class, I got through it. I realized second class, third class, right? And then it got easier and easier and easier for me. So when I'm facilitating or when I'm teaching or when I'm talking to people, I'm doing my job. I'm not thinking about, well, I'm not like that. I'm an introverted person. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking about, my job is to transfer information and help people about something I'm passionate about, right? And all that stuff goes away. And I think that, and just to talk about that for a second, right? If the world was made up of all extroverts, the world would be gone by now. We would have killed ourselves. We would have destroyed the world, right? And if the world was made up of all introverts, maybe we wouldn't have progressed as quickly. We wouldn't have taken as many risks, right? Maybe you'd say that. And I think the stats are that half the population, close to half the population, like 51-49, are introvert, extrovert, something like that. That's got to be part of our nature, right? Part of our nature is, the world produces so many men and so many women. It produces so many introverts, so many extroverts. This is our nature. This is how this is our biology. This is the evolution of us, right? And it's done that way because it's important, right? We like to say diversity is so important. Men, women, people of color, people of different backgrounds, people of different functional backgrounds. Like, we love this, right? We know the value that brings to our company, but we really don't value the introverts, because, the person that's going to speak up is the person that looks like, oh, that person must be the dynamic one. And that is so not true. right? And you can go out, history and look at people that were introverts. Elon Musk is a good example, right? I mean, Elon Musk, I think Bill Gates. I mean, you can go on and on, the people in history that were introverts, and it's so it doesn't mean you're going to be successful or not. And I think what we should do really is really we have to learn to communicate so that we're listening and hearing each other in an open way and stop being judgmental about that. And not only I don't necessarily think companies are judgmental about that in their workers, but people have to stop being judgmental about themselves. Like just because and by the way, I'm an introvert. Just because I'm an introvert does not mean that I can't teach college or facilitate a meeting or, it makes me really good at coaching because the intimacy, right? The ability to connect with people in a deep way, that fills me with joy. And I do get stressed out about social events and things like that, but I've learned to deal with it in my own way. And that's what we have that's what we have to do.
So in reality, do you think that as a leadership coach, presenting ways to help leaders engage in those introverts, because we're going to gravitate as leaders, we're going to gravitate to those extroverts, those people who we may be able to connect with. Like as me as an extroverted leader, I'm going to connect more closely with an extroverted employee rather than the introverted. I'm going to say, what's wrong with that employee? They're not talking or they're not sharing ideas. Maybe they're not a good employee. But in reality, the way that they process and the way that they present their ideas are going to be much different than the extroverted employee. So, how do you engage that introverted employee? How do you shift your focus and provide them with kind of a safe harbor to make them feel comfortable, but also share those amazing ideas that they have that you could benefit from? You're just not hearing them because they're so quiet.
The bigger answer, I think, is you create a culture where people are all valued. That's one way, including that. But for the leader or for the team leader or for the team member, is you got to give them space to talk. Because when I coach an introvert, right, they say, he didn't stop talking, so I didn't want to give my opinion. Big problem, right? Or you talk to the extrovert and you say, I don't know why he didn't speak up in the meeting. Well, you didn't give him a chance to speak up in the meeting, right? Like there's got to be this, we have to listen. And there is some research about communication styles, like different people have communication styles. Like my communication style is I like to collaborate. So to me, it's like we can interrupt each other and we can do all this stuff, right? That would freak some people out and they go, this guy's crazy, right? Or if someone has a communication style that's very deliberate and very paced, right? I might get frustrated with that and block them out. So it's really learning how to kind of understand, meet people where they are. And that's the real answer. We need to meet people where they are and appreciate these different things. But I can tell you firsthand that I know executives, like senior executives that are on an executive team that are brilliant, that aren't being used to the full extent. Now, my coaching with them is you have to develop some muscles to get in there, right? And that's a little harder to do. I will share with you one example. I work with an executive team and great team. First of all, we only get hired by really good companies. Like these, they're already really good. There's nothing wrong with it was just trying, how do I be a really good team? And they're going through some change and they really wanted to, do well. And we did 360 feedback. So so this one person, he got feedback that said, I want to hear his voice more. I want to hear him talk more, right? He should speak up more. I feel like he's not doing what he needs to do. Like it was all very positive, but like basically saying to him, we love what you have to say. We need you to, say it more. Okay. When we did the 360 debrief and we showed the data and we showed the comments, right? And my clients is saying to everybody, so what is it that you want to see? Tell me, I need to know. And the whole team said, really nothing more. You do everything right. You're always saying it. And I'm like, well, why did you guys say all this stuff? And they said, well, we said it because we didn't want him to be misinterpreted. The point is that they were afraid for him because in their brain, if you're quiet, right, that's not, other people might not see you as strong, but they were they saw him as strong. So it was just the fear of caring about him because of these biases we have. We're saying, so they came to the conclusion that he's fine the way he is. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating, right? But I don't buy when someone tells me that, they can't, write a paper because they're an extrovert, or they can't, be a salesperson because they're an introvert, or whatever they say. It's just so much self-talk. You said you're an extrovert?
Yeah.
Kind of transitioning to be an introvert? Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the way, that experience with that executive that I just told you, I didn't realize that I've been on the premise that I'm an extrovert because I think I wanted to be, and I've been fighting to always do stuff. But when I read this book, I realized that I'm really an introvert, and there's lots of reasons why, and that all of my efforts and all of my drive and all my things that I always put myself out there, right, has always been a battle. It has not been a natural transition for me. Right. And I think that, going from not being able to speak up in a class, right, to facilitating 100 people in a room to do strategic planning or culture or teamwork, whatever, right, to be able to do those things are totally not aligned, and to get there. And I'm not the best at it necessarily, but I'm just myself. I've resigned to the fact that I'm going to be myself. I'm going to do it. I am what I am, and the results are what they are, and just kept learning and muscle until you get there. And that's or I would be probably just as happy working for someone who's doing this and helping them, which is why probably I love coaching so much, right? I get to work with them behind the scenes, like, if you will, right? It's more intimate. That's probably why I got attracted to this in the first place.
Yeah, that intimate one-on-one setting kind of provides like a special place for you, because if you're naturally introverted, then that one-on-one setting is going to be something that you're going to find more rewarding than talking up, in a meeting or in front of other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I've got to the point where it's like we always get a little nervous walking into the room. Always the fear that the wild animal is going to come out, but it never does. It's like I've learned to maneuver, and if things go wrong, I have ways out of it. I know how to, so I'm more comfortable with it now.